Okay. We are live. Shayla. Great risings. Great risings. Okay. There we go. Let's see. Happy Friday, beautiful people. Happy Friday, happy Friday. Let's wobble, sawubona. Greetings, grand risings, peace and blessings. Let's minimize this a little bit. Right there. Grand rising, auntie. Peace and blessings. Aliyah. Let's see. I keep switching. Search. Okay. I keep switching my version. Mom, shalom, shalom. Okay, beautiful people. Happy Friday, Demi, shalom, shalom. It is Friday, April the 16th, 2021, day 129 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count, y'all. Day 798. We about to crack 800. Well, technically, we about over 1,000, right? Because of the feast days and the Sabbath feast days that we don't count because we're not present because we rest on those days. But if those was added in, we'd be in 1,000 day count. But into who, beautiful people, today we're reading 1 Kings chapter 16, 17, and 18, and then we're going to hop over to the Legends of the Jews and pick up where we left off at yesterday on page 483. All right, y'all, so remember, the Bible, Christy, remember I told y'all after we finish with the Legends of the Jews, I'm almost certain now that we are going to go to our next companion reading. That's probably backward. That probably look backward. Oh, I had it upside down. Well, this is probably, I don't know. I have an iPhone, so that probably looks backwards to you guys. At least it looks backwards to me when I look at the screen. But anyway, it's Fossilized Customs. It's by Lou White. This is the one. If you're going to purchase it, make sure you get the 12th edition. Matter of fact, when you go to Amazon, I think this is the only one that they're currently selling anyway. Although you may have some people, well, I didn't really see anybody. I don't really know too many people who get rid of this after they get it, right? Especially those who are finding out truth. But this uncovers a lot of the stuff that we have been indoctrinated with, and it is big doctrine inside the church, right? It teaches us about who Yahuah truly is and all the doctrine that has come in and been mixed into the Christianity. Well, I ain't doing air. I don't need to do air pumps with Christianity. Because we all know that all is all discombobulated anyway, that whole faith, right? And those that are waking up understanding, right? And this reveals what the beast is, right? Christianity is the beast system, right? That fools the entire world. Remember that deep deception, that what is it called? That great delusion that Yahuah was talking about, that he was telling his people about, that they would fall into by default if they rejected the truth of who he was and his word. Yep, Christianity is it. And this does a really good job of uncovering that and going through every single, I ain't gonna say every single facet of it, but a great deal of it, right? And it teaches us, like we've been doing, let's go back and see what Yahuah said about this. Boom, boom, see how he called this out here. See how they taking this, flipped it around backwards, added this to it, and now you're actually doing this. Like most of the words doing everything Yahuah told them not to do, right? Remember, Israel is the firstborn son of Yah, right? You get over into the New Testament, it takes all that and condenses it into one person and calls him Yahuwah's only begotten son, that is not what Yahuwah said, right? Although Yahuwah speaks about his son in the Old Testament as one, because he looks at us as one family. But if you keep reading through, when he's talking about his son, just like he told Pharaoh, let my son go. Did he send Moses into Egypt to tell Pharaoh to let one single man go? He said, let my son go that he may come worship me. When he said my son, everybody here probably knows that it wasn't one person. It was the entire community, the entire family of Israel, right? The descendants of Jacob, his sons and daughters. Remember how they all went into Egypt when the famine came? He was talking about it. When you would say my son, that's who he's talking about. He's talking about the whole of us. And you can see that clearly through and through, all through the books of the law and the prophets, right? Which is improperly named the Old Testament, right? Okay, so we're going to go through this page by page, just like we've been going through Legends of the Jews. Now, I will say, I'll say a lot of this is correct, but you will also through here, we've addressed it enough for nobody to get tripped up on it, right? So in here, he still refers to, let me see how I'm gonna word this. Okay. So when he brings light to some of the New Testament scriptures, he teaches it in the way where JC or Yeshua is the teacher, not someone divine, right? Because when he actually points that out, that's why when I was going through, I was like, wait, what are you saying about this? But the way he is presenting the information is exactly how the New Testament presents it, as him as their teacher. So don't get tripped up on that, because he's teaching them and he's pointing back to how even in some places where JC was telling them, well, what did Yah say? Worship Yah, right? But throughout time, it got all discombobulated where everybody started worshiping him instead of worshiping Yah, right? They turned him into a god. We know people are famous with doing that, right? Even with Peter and Paul, when they went through, they want to do not worship us. We're not gods, right? Everybody, right? You gotta break their state. Do not worship me. It's misdirected. We need to direct it appropriately to Yah, right? And he points that out and how he was constantly trying to direct the people to worship Yah. But anyway, we see how good that did, right? So that's what we want to do. We want to redirect everybody back to Yah, the creator of heaven and the earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God that Elijah called on, all the prophets, the God that they talked to, the God that they worship, the God that they were constantly telling the people, Yahuwah said, turn back to him. That God, him. Right? Him. That's what we're talking about. Yahuwah. Right? So I think this does a really good job of doing that. So we're going to go through this. Like I said, if you want to get your copy, get it from Amazon. I don't have any links where I'm getting paid for it. I actually reached out to them yesterday to let them know that I was going to read. I want to make sure that I wasn't going to be infringing on any copyright laws or anything like that. So I'm waiting for them to get back to me. I didn't send an email. I'm going to try again today, call, and I left them a nice little message and told them what we were doing, because it's going to be recorded and posted on YouTube, right? And I've seen it before. I just wanted to double check because I didn't want to violate anything. You will hear him if you've seen any of his videos. He'll say, hey, take the information, share it with people. Read it out loud to them if they ain't got it. But I just want to do my due diligence, right? Just to kind of make sure. So this is it, Fossilized Customs. Oh, and the version, if you listen to it online, the link that I gave you for YouTube, that is actually the 7th edition. So the 7th edition is not as thick and thorough as this one. This is the 12th edition. It's about it's about 350 pages, right? So the 7th edition, that one I gave you online, is missing a lot of the information that's in here, right? And they've updated some stuff as new things came out. They just made the updates and put it in here. So this is the latest edition. So if you have any other ones, I guess if that's all you have and you can afford to get it, okay, you can get it. But I guess once we get to a certain point, some of the information you won't have in there, right? Because I actually have I have the 9th edition upstairs, and it's like this thick. compared to this, right? So we want the latest one so everybody can follow along, because we're going to read it page for page, word for word, y'all. And it has all the reference. I like it. It has all the references. You can go back and check everywhere, right? I learned so much from this quite a few years ago when I came across, and I actually overheard my uncle and one of his friends who was a rabbi talking about it, right? And I'm just, I'm ear hustling and stuff. I'm like, what's the name of that? I'm taking little notes while I'm walking through, acting like I ain't paying attention to their conversation, but I'm trying to soak up all the knowledge I can. And I went and looked it up. I'm so glad I did. Sometimes ear hustling is good. Okay, y'all. Let's go ahead and do the shimmer. So, and I'll post you can type it in, Fossilized Customs, but like I said, it'll be in a comment section pinned on YouTube and in the description box, and in the description box on Facebook as well. So if you need to get the link, so you can go purchase it. Trina said, let me see the front of it again. Go ahead and screenshot it if you need to. Hold on. So you can make sure you get the right one. Fossilized Customs. The Beast is Unveiled, 12th edition, The Pagan Origins of Popular Customs. And it's by Lew White, L-E-W, Lew White, like the color white, Lew White. Y'all got it? Everybody got it? And y'all, if y'all snap a picture and that's a backwards picture, you can still figure it out. Okay, you got it? Okay, you did? Okay, cool. All right, y'all. Matter of fact, let me, I'm gonna read y'all like the table of contents, right? Just so you'll know exactly some of the stuff it's going to get into. It's really good. Then we're gonna do the shimmer. Okay, so the table of contents, you got the introduction, and it's an intro, let you know, hey, you may not have realized this, right? The introduction: are you living by truth or tradition? The next chapter, appointed times, and it's talking about the church fathers abandoned them. Doctrines of demons, Roman days, moons and years, and how all that's been toyed with and played with. Nimrod's rebellion. Beastie dead guy rules world from grave. Easter, which we know is a big one with our people, and they think, oh, it's resurrection. Bruh, if y'all didn't really know about Easter and Resurrection Day and Good Friday, if you hear when we read this part, you'll probably be repenting and constantly repenting before Yah for multiple days when you hear about this one, right? And what they're actually doing. Easter is about Ishtar, Asherah, the great prostitute, the mother of harlots. The next chapter is the Sinai autograph, the creator's signature, seal, and memorial name. And we know his memorial name. He said, my name is Yahuah forever, right? That's his memorial name. But he has other names whereby he's called by his attributes, right? And we can call him by that, right? But he has a memorial name. He said, and that's in Exodus. He said, that's my name forever, right? Okay. What is worship? Obedience, evidence of our love. Legalism is the next chapter, or illegalism. One will get you free, the other one will get you fried. And it seems like a bunch of people getting fried right now, right? Okay, the next chapter is the elders meeting. Paul warned us of coming distortions, right? Ain't nobody really listening to Paul. Ain't nobody listen to him. Even to the good stuff, ain't nobody listen to that, right? They taking what they heard, improperly ear hustling, and not verifying what they ear hustled, right? And they in trouble. Who are the not serene, right? Pursued by the dragon. Rosaries and Islam. And that's talking about praying to Mary, the Queen of Heaven, and necromancy. Then we got Christmas. Santa, Nimrod, Asherah trees, and the solstice. You know, the solstice celebration. Yeah, all that falls in the chapter under Christmas. Then we got birthday celebrations. A lot of people really don't like to read this chapter, right? But this is talking about rituals of witchcraft. Then you got the time, AC and BC, invented in the year 525 by angry Catholic monk, right? Mystagogues, those who guide initiates into the mysteries. The next chapter is Moloch, Santa, offering our children to a big red-bellied man. Ooh, y'all didn't know that, did you? You ain't know that? Letting your children go sit on a fat lap of Santa. Ugh. Asherah, connection to Christmas. The tree and wreath secret. A lot of y'all don't know that. Y'all just doing it ignorantly. I ain't saying y'all people here, but y'all get what I'm saying. The next chapter goes into Halloween. All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Even is odd. Next chapter, what happens when we die? Talking about the 2 resurrections ahead. Next chapter is the Roman beast. Caesar was pontiff before Constantine's Catholicism. Then we're going to Mithraism, merging multiple religions into one multi-headed beast, right? They all fall under Catholicism. All of the religions fall under Catholicism. It's just different branches. You got the Muslim branch, you got the Christian branch, you got the Buddha branch, all of them. Everybody got the same pattern, right? Roman church timeline, how they invented your world. Then we're going to the Jesuit Illuminati, a secret order, militant teaching authority. Then it goes into the gospel, what the gospel truly is and what it is truly not. And the gospel, or the Besorah message, is the gift of the Torah. And that you can kind of read that in the New Testament, but they still teach it all chopped and screwed, right? They tell you don't teach another gospel, but when they're teaching it to you, they're teaching you another gospel. If you would just read it yourself, you would not get led astray. It's like they're doing that Jedi mind trick. Like, you open your book to this. Now let us explain to you what this means. Don't ever do that. Go read it for yourself, right? All right. The message, or the Besorah, the good news, is about Yahuah, right? And his instructions, which they call the Torah. Those are the living words, right? And what's crazy is it says that. It depending on which translation you got, right? Translations that have corrected that, the good news is that the kingdom of Yahuah has come to earth, right? They say it in different words. Okay, the next chapter is the everlasting covenant, a marriage that Shaitan hates, or Satan. The Last Supper, time of the Passover, a death remembrance. The next chapter is turning the world upside down, the name of Yahuah, right? Remember I told you everything is, when you see it, you can see everything is flipped upside down and it's turned around backwards. They even did the same thing with Yahuah's name. He said, don't take my name in vain, which also means don't cause my name to go to ruin, meaning speak my name, but they tell you don't speak his name. It's too holy to speak. See, they're doing everything backwards, y'all. Protestant confessions about Sunday, but they don't care. The next chapter is Yahuah a Trinity? And what did Yahuah really say about? What did Yahuah say? Why they teach you about the Trinity divided into 3? What did Yahuah say? He says, I am Echad. I am one. Israel will to be one, not divided. Bro, this gets so good. Oh, a lot of people ain't gonna like this chapter. Lent, the 40-day fast to prepare for what? Look, then next chapter is the Queen of Heaven, the Mother of Harlots, and it gives more detail about Easter. God, G-O-D, right? I know we kind of use that interchangeably, but it's going to give you the details of what God, G-O-D, really means and its origins, and how we really should not refer to Yahuah as that, right? Okay. Adopted is an adopted term for the Teutonic deities. Circumcision is the next chapter. It goes into immersion versus circumcision. You get it? See how they flip everything around, tell you about baptism. Yahuah says circumcision, right? People don't get it, like, and I'm telling you, when I started seeing this, I'm like, what? Y'all ever seen them movies where they do them fast clips, like boom, 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 and they show you looking all different kind of ways, like you just got your mind blown. When you see it, I'm telling y'all will not be able to unsee it. Okay, let me hear it with these chapters. The next chapter, it goes into the lunar Sabbath era, and it's removing the sign of the covenant, right? Yahuah, they tell you things are done with. Yahuah said, by you keeping my commands, keeping my feast days, my weekly Sabbaths, and these family meetings that we have throughout the year, he said, that is my sign, my seal upon you, right? It's all that's done away with. It's all been fulfilled over here. What? Keep playing if y'all want to. This is how we are sealed. Just like they talking and pushing the mark of the beast, y'all better make sure y'all got the mark of Yah on y'all. And he said, how do you get his mark? By keeping his commands. Make sure you observing his weekly Sabbath. Because when things start popping off, because there's a world that's here, that's unseen, that is more real than this physical world that we can see. And you are being marked. Those, like, there's literally an unseen seal on you. If Yahuah would open your eyes for you to see it, you would see whether you are sealed by him or if you have been sealed by default by the enemy, by disobeying all these. Guys, I'm telling you what I know and what I've seen, right? I told you that dream I had where Yahuah showed me the two worlds, like the physical world with the spiritual world superimposed on it, and I saw them interacting together. I'm telling you, y'all had better find out what Yahuah has said and make sure everybody, what they telling you lines up to what he is saying. And if you have to choose, you better always pick the same choice and choose life, because you better go with the authority, because if you don't, it's going to be hell to pay the captain. Look, and Yahuah is the captain, just in case you didn't know. He the captain, right? Next chapter. Yimak Shumar Uziko. I think I said that wrong. Anyway, it's Yeshu, may his name be blotted out, right? And it goes into more detail about the name. Then it talks about in the next chapter, Nazarene or Nazarite. Which one are we, right? And it goes into the detail of what they are. The next chapter is the strong delusion, right? And it's talking about being programmed to believe a working of error. And it goes into a lot of detail about how Christianity is the strong delusion and how you've been programmed to do everything against what Yahuah has said, right? Next chapter is the beast and the anti-Mashiach. And it talks about, Maitreya, Jesus is coming, right? And he goes into the detail of that and how that's always been the scare tactic to kind of keep people in line and keep them off course, right? And we know how crazy that can get. The next chapter is the Nicolaitans lording over the people, is what that's talking about. The next chapter is the transliteration of the name of Yahusha. No counterfeits are allowed. I really like how he goes into that. And mind you, when he, that's why I had to do more looking and understanding that what he's talking about. When he uses the name Yeshua, Yahusha. If you were here early last year when I was still using that a lot, I didn't want people getting twisted the words I was saying, so I completely stopped using Yahusha altogether, right? Because Yahusha is, when saying Yahusha, it's another name for Yahuah, but it's clarifying a different aspect about him, which is the portion about him that saves. But the way we've been brought up in Christianity, when you do that, it makes Yahuah seem like he's divided, like there's another person here, and there's not, right? And then some people is coming out of that. I didn't want them still getting that chopped and screwed and the Trinity or duality and stuff when Yahuah say he is one. So that's why I decided to put all the other names away, for the sake of not getting anybody confused and using Yahuah alone, right? Because that still confuses some people. I was getting a lot of questions about that. Well, okay, here, Father, how do we solve this? Use my name only. There we go, right? So, but he kind of goes into a little bit of detail of that too. It's really good. But some people, when they use them, they're still kind of referring to one and his son. I'm like, but we're his son, right? But it's a whole conversation that get people discombobulated if it's not explained according to how Yahuah says it. So I do my best to try and keep it all in line with what Yahuah says, right? And it totally goes against Christian doctrine and theology. Okay, the next chapter is moon shadows, how to use the moon to tell time for festivals. The next chapter is about the bride, the lamb's wife, how to identify her. The next chapter is the Aleph and the Tau, the revelation of the identity of Yahusha. The next chapter is toxic Torah, supersessionism, replacement theology. The next chapter is polygamy. 2, 3, or more shall become one flesh, right? It's going into that for those of y'all that's wait for that chapter. The next chapter is word study, Words need to mean something truthful. The next chapter is going into the Kabbalah, receiving fulfillment from wrong sources. And the last chapter in here is talking about witchcraft and what true witchcraft really is. And it said it's not just Halloween, but everything. So all right, so there was a list of all the chapters and stuff. So when we actually get here, I won't read that again because it took me like 10 minutes to go through that. So that was just kind of like a preview of what we're going to be talking about when we get here. So get it if you can afford it. I think it was like $29. But if not, we're going to be reading, y'all. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the Shema, which is found in Deuteronomy. Chapter 6, y'all. We start at verse 3. Remember, always read the entire chapter for full context. We just pull the meat out of it so we can start the day with it. Here, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, or our mighty one, he is one God, right? This Yahuah talking about he is one. Don't get me all split up. I'm not a trinity. I'm not duality. I am one, right? And everything exists in one. And you shall love Yahuah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand. And they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuah our God as he has commanded us. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and hop over here to 1 Kings chapter 16. All right. This is the message from Yahuah delivered to King Baasha by the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani. I lifted you out of the dust to make you ruler of my people Israel, but you have followed the evil example of Jeroboam. You have provoked my anger by causing my people Israel to sin. Now I will destroy you and your family, just as I have destroyed the descendants of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. The members of Baasha's family who died in the city will be eaten by dogs, and those who die in the field will be eaten by vultures. The rest of the events in Baasha's reign and the extent of his power are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Baasha died, he was buried in Tirzah. Then his son Elah became the next king. The message from Yahuah against Baasha and his family came through the prophet Jehu, son of Hanani. It was delivered because Baasha had done what was evil in Yahuah's sight, just as the family of Jeroboam had done, and also because Baasha had destroyed the family of Jeroboam. Yahuah's anger was provoked by Baasha's sins. Elah, son of Baasha, began to rule over Israel in the 26th year of King Asa's reign in Judah. He reigned in the city of Tirzah for 2 years. Then Zimri, who commanded half of the royal chariots, made plans to kill him. One day in Tirzah, Elah was getting drunk at the home of Arza, the supervisor of the palace. Zimri walked in and struck him down and killed him. This happened in the 27th year of King Asa's reign in Judah. Then Zimri became the next king. Zimri immediately killed the entire royal family of Baasha, leaving him not even a single male child. He even destroyed distant relatives and friends. So Zimri destroyed the dynasty of Baasha as Yahuah had promised through the prophet Jehu. I thought you were staring at me. He was staring at the watch. No, I thought you was trying to say something to me. No. So Zimri destroyed the dynasty of Baasha as Yahuah had promised through the prophet Jehu. This happened because all of the sins of Baasha and his son Elah had committed, and because of the sins they led Israel to commit. They provoked the anger of Yahuah, the God of Israel, with their worthless idols. The rest of the events in Eli's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. Zimri began to rule over Israel in the 27th year of King Asa's reign in Judah, but his reign in Tirzah lasted only 7 days. The army of Israel was then attacking the Philistine town of Gibeathon when they heard that Zimri had committed treason and had assassinated the king. That very day, they chose Omri, commander of the army, as the new king of Israel. So Omri led the entire army of Israel up from Gibeathon to attack Tirzah, Israel's capital. When Zimri saw the city had been taken, he went into the citadel of the palace and burned it down over himself and died in the flames. For he too had done what was evil in Yahuwah's sight. He followed the example of Jeroboam and all the sins he had committed and led Israel to commit. The rest of the events in Zimri's reign and his conspiracy are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. But now the people of Israel were split into 2 factions. Half the people tried to make Tibni, son of Ginath, their king, while the other half supported Omri. But Omri's supporters defeated the supporters of Tibni. So Tibni was killed, and Omri became the next king. Omri began to rule over Israel in the 31st year of King Asa's reign in Judah. He reigned 12 years in all, 6 of them in Tirzah. Then Omri bought the hill now known as Samaria, from its owner, Shemer, for 150 pounds of silver. He built a city on it and called the city Samaria in honor of Shemer. But Omri did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight, even more than any of the kings before him. He followed the example of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and all the sins he committed and led Israel to commit. The people provoked the anger of Yahuwah, the God of Israel, with their worthless idols. See why Yahuwah got to keep kicking them out? He said, because it's not just the king, the one that's in charge, that's sinning. He's causing the entire nation to sin, right? Don't get up here, fool. The rest of the events in Omri's reign, the extent of his power and everything he did, are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. And if anybody got that book, any of these, let a sister know. Let me know where you got them from. The book of the history of the kings of Israel. When Omri died, he was buried in Samaria. Then his son Ahab became the next king. Ahab, son of Omri, began to rule over Israel in the 38th year of King Asa's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 22 years. But Ahab, son of Omri, did what was evil in Yahuwah's sight, even more than any of the kings before him. They just keep getting worse and worse, don't they? And as though it were not enough to follow the sinful example of Jeroboam, he married Jezebel, the daughter of King Ethbaal of the Sidonians, and he began to bow down and worship of Baal. First, Ahab built a temple and an altar for Baal in Samaria. Then he set up an Asherah pole. He did more to provoke the anger of Yahuwah, the God of Israel, than any of the other kings of Israel before him. It was during his reign that Hiel, a man from Bethel, rebuilt Jericho. When he laid its foundations, it cost him the life of his oldest son, Abiram. And when he completed it and set up its gates, it cost him the life of his youngest son, Segub. This all happened according to the message from Yahuwah concerning Jericho, spoken by Joshua, the son of Nun. Next chapter. 1 Kings chapter 17. Elijah comes on the scene. Now Elijah, who was from Tishbe in Gilead, told King Ahab, as surely as Yahuwah, the God of Israel, lives, the God I serve, there will be no dew or rain during the next few years until I give the word. Then Yahuwah said to Elijah, go to the east and hide by the Kerith brook near where it enters the Jordan River. Drink from the brook and eat what the ravens bring you, for I have commanded them to bring you food. So Elijah did as Yahuwah told him, and camped beside Kerith brook east of the Jordan. The ravens brought him bread and meat each morning and evening, and he drank from the brook. But after a while the brook dried up, for there was no rainfall anywhere in the land. Then Yahuwah said to Elijah, go and live in the village of Zarephath, near the city of Sidon. I have instructed a widow there to feed you. So he went to Zarephath. As he arrived at the gates of the village, he saw a widow gathering sticks, and he asked her, would you please bring me a little cup of water. As she was going to get it, he called to her, "Bring me a bite of bread too." But she said, "I swear by Yahuah your God that I do not have a single piece of bread in my house, and I only have a handful of flour left in a jar and a little cooking oil in the bottom of the jug. I was just gathering a few sticks to cook this last meal, and then my son and I will die." But Elijah said to her, "Don't be afraid. Go ahead and do just what you said, but make a little bread for me first. Then use what's left to prepare a meal for yourself and your son. For this is what Yahuah, the God of Israel, says. For there will always be flour and olive oil left in your containers until the time when Yahuah sends rain and the crops grow again." So she did as Elijah said, and she fed Elijah, and her family continued to eat for many days. There was always enough flour and olive oil left in the containers, just as Yahuah had promised through Elijah. Sometime later, the woman's son became sick. He grew worse and worse. He grew worse and worse. And finally, he died. Then she said to Elijah, "O man of God, what have you done to me? Have you come here to point out my sins and kill my son?" But Elijah replied, "Give me your son." And he took the child's body from her arms and carried him up the stairs to the room where he was staying and laid the body on his bed. How many of y'all remember who this boy is? We learned this. We read this already in the Legends of the Jews. But he has an entire book named after him. Anybody? Bueller? Anybody? Drop it in the chat box or in here. I'm going to keep on reading. I'm going to ask y'all again. Who do y'all remember this boy was that Elijah just raised? This widow woman's son. Who was he? See if y'all been paying attention. But Elijah replied, "Give me your son." And he took the child's body from her arms. He carried him up the stairs to the room where he was staying and laid the body on his bed. Then Elijah cried out to Yahuah, "O Lord, my God, why have you brought this tragedy to this widow who opened her arms to me, causing her son to die?" He stretched himself out over the child 3 times and cried out to Yahuah, "O Lord, my God, please let this child's life return to him." Yahuah heard Elijah's prayer, and the life of the child returned, and he revived. Then Elijah brought him down from the upper room and gave him to his mother. "Look," he said, "your son is alive." Then the woman told Elijah, "Now that I know for sure that you are a man of God and that Yahuah truly speaks through you." Nobody on Facebook? One person over here? You are correct. It was Jonah. This little boy is none other than the great prophet Jonah, whom Yahuah sent to Nineveh, right? And we know a little bit more about the details of Jonah and why he truly ran away. He wasn't running away because he didn't want to give Yahuah's message. He was running away because he knew. Matter of fact, he said, "Father, I knew you are a great and merciful El, right? And you forgive the sins of all those who ask you." He said, "I knew if I took them this word that they would repent and you would forgive them. But then if I did that, I would look like a false prophet. So I don't want to do that because I know that you have set me in my place. And if I give this word and it doesn't come to pass, I will look like I'm a false prophet, and then I would endanger my head," right? And Yahuah knew that. So we get the deeper details of what happened with this, right? Eventually, Nineveh was destroyed sometime later. The prophet's words did come to pass, right? So we get the details. If you missed that, go back to the Legends of the Jews. Go back. I forget what I named it, but I'll look it up and I'll post it today. Let me write myself a note. Jonah. Just in case you missed it and don't have the book, I'll put the video where we read that so you can go back and listen to it. And you can actually read it, and I'll pinpoint the page and see video and page.
Mommy?
Yes, baby? Okay. That way, if you don't want to listen to it, you can actually lay your eyes on it and read it yourself. All right. But yes, it was none other than the prophet Jonah, right? So we know that Yahuah had compassion on Jonah, and he didn't let the fish completely swallow him, but he actually experienced some marvelous things while he was there, right? Yeah. If you missed that, you got to go read what happened during that 3 days period. No, baby, that's a ranch. Okay, last chapter for today. 1 Kings chapter 18. Later on, in the 3rd year of the drought, Yahuah said to Elijah, "Go and present yourself to..." Go and present yourself to King Ahab. Tell him that I will soon send rain. So Elijah went to appear before Ahab. Meanwhile, the famine had become very severe in Samaria. So Ahab summoned Obadiah, who was in charge of the palace. Obadiah was a devoted follower of Yahuah. Once, when Jezebel had tried to kill all of Yahuah's prophets, Obadiah had hidden 100 of them in 2 caves. He put 50 prophets in each cave and supplied them with food and water. Ahab said to Obadiah, "We must check every spring and valley in the land to see if we can find enough grass to save at least some of my horses and mules." So they divided the land between them. Ahab went one way by himself, and Obadiah went another by himself. And Obadiah went another way by himself. As Obadiah was walking along, he suddenly saw Elijah coming toward him. Obadiah recognized him at once and bowed low to the ground before him. "Is it really you, my lord Elijah?" he asked. "Yes, it is," Elijah replied. "Now go and tell your master Elijah is here." Right? "Oh, sir," Obadiah protested, "what harm have I done to you that you are sending me to my death at the hands of Ahab? For I swear by Yahuah your God that the king has searched every nation and kingdom on earth from end to end to find you. At each time he was told Elijah isn't here. King Ahab forced the king of that nation to swear to the truth of his claim. And now you say, go and tell your master Elijah is here. But as soon as I leave you, the spirit of Yahuah will carry you away to who knows where." Like everybody knew that the spirit of Yah was just transporting, translating Elijah wherever he needed him to be, right? Where's the power at today, y'all? It's still here, but we ain't experiencing it because everybody calling out to JC. I ain't gonna start. And now you say, go and tell your master Elijah is here. But as soon as I leave you, the spirit of Yahuah will carry you away to who knows where. When Ahab comes and cannot find you, he will kill me. Yet I have been a true servant of Yahuah all my life. Has no one told you, my lord, about the time when Jezebel was trying to kill Yahuah's prophets? I hid 100 of them in 2 caves and supplied them with food and water. And now you say, go tell your master Elijah is here. Sir, if I do that, Ahab will certainly kill me. But Elijah said, I swear by Yahuah Almighty, in whose presence I stand, that I will present myself to Ahab this very day. So Obadiah went to tell Ahab that Elijah had come, and Ahab went out to meet Elijah. When Ahab saw him, he exclaimed, "So is it really you, you troublemaker of Israel?" "I have made no trouble for Israel," Elijah replied. "You and your family are the troublemakers, for you have refused to obey the commands of Yahuah and have worshipped the images of Baal instead. Now summon all of Israel to join me at Mount Carmel, along with the 450 prophets of Baal and the 400 prophets of Asherah who are supported by Jezebel." So Ahab, and there's your 850. Remember we read over here in Legends of the Jews, it said there were 850 prophets with Elijah up there. There you go, right there. There's your proof. 450 worshipers of Baal, and the 400 prophets of Asherah who are supported by Jezebel. So Ahab summoned all the people of Israel and the prophets to Mount Carmel. Then Elijah stood in front of them and said, "How much longer will you waver, hobbling between 2 opinions? If Yahuah is God, follow him. But if Baal is God, then follow him." But the people were completely silent. Then Elijah said to them, "I am the only prophet of Yahuah is left, but Baal has 450 prophets. Now bring 2 bulls. The prophets of Baal may choose whichever one they wish and cut it into pieces and lay it on the wood of their altar, but without setting fire to it. I will prepare the other bull and lay it on the wood altar, but not set fire to it. Then call on the name of your God, and I will call on the name of Yah. The God who answers by setting fire to the wood is the true God." And all the people agreed. Then Elijah said to the prophets of Baal, "You go first, for there are many of you. Choose one of the bulls and prepare it and call on the name of your God, but do not set fire to the wood." So they prepared one of the bulls and placed it on the altar. Then they called on the name of Baal from morning until noontime, shouting, "Oh, Baal, answer us." but there was no reply of any kind. They danced and hobbled around the altar they had made. About noontime, Elijah began mocking them. "You'll have to shout louder," he scoffed, "for surely he is a god. Perhaps he is daydreaming or is reveling in him. I'm sorry. I keep saying it wrong, y'all. I'm sorry. It's relieving. Hold on. Let me get my voice right. Hold on. About noontime, Elijah began mocking them. "You'll have to shout louder," he scoffed, "for surely he is a god. Perhaps he is daydreaming or he's relieving himself." Someplace say maybe he's on the toilet, or maybe he is away on a trip, or is asleep. He might need to be awakened. So they shouted louder and louder. Following their normal custom, they cut themselves with knives and swords until blood gushed out. They raved all afternoon until the time of the evening sacrifice, but still there was no sound, no reply, no response. And we get a little bit more detail over here in the Legends of the Jews, right? And we found out they was looking a little dumb. And so they tried to sneak and set fire to it, which is why Elijah told them to douse the bull, right, with water, because they was going to try and set fire to it, right? Because they was looking like complete idiots out here. But Elijah foreknew that already, which is why he said douse it with water, right? Then Elijah called to the people, "Come over here, everybody. Y'all done watching them making fools of themselves? Come on over here. Let's go. Come on." Yeah, you're right. Islam and Hindu do that, right? "Come over here." They all crowded around him as he repaired to the altar Yahuah. They all crowded around him as he repaired the altar of Yahuah that had been torn down. He took 12 stones, one to represent each of the 12 tribes of Israel, and he used the stones to rebuild the altar in the name of Yah. Then he dug a trench around the altar large enough to hold about 3 gallons. He piled wood on the altar, cut the bull into pieces, and laid the pieces on the wood. Then he said, "Fill 4 large jars with water and pour the water over the offering and the wood." After they had done this, he said, "Do the same thing again." And when they were finished, he said, "Now do it a 3rd time." So they did as he said, and the water ran around the altar and even filled the trench. At the usual time for offering the evening sacrifice, Elijah the prophet walked up to the altar and prayed, "O Lord, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, prove today that you are God in Israel and that I am your servant. Prove that I have done all of this at your command. O Yah, answer me so that these people will know that you, O Yah, are God and that you have brought them back to yourself." Immediately, the fire of Yahuah flashed down from heaven and burnt up the young bull, the wood, the stones, and the dust. It even licked up all the water in the trench. When the people saw it, they fell face down to the ground and cried out, "Yahuah, he is God. Yes, Yahuah, he is God." Then Elijah commanded, "Seize all the prophets of Baal. Don't let a single one escape." So the people seized them all, and Elijah took them down to the Kishon Valley and killed them there. Then Elijah said to Ahab, "Go get something to eat and drink, for I hear a mighty rainstorm coming." So Ahab went to eat and drink, but Elijah climbed to the top of Mount Carmel and bowed low to the ground and prayed with his face between his knees. Then he said to his servant, "Go look out toward the sea." The servant went and looked, and he returned to Elijah and said, "I didn't see anything." 7 times Elijah told him to go and look. Finally, the 7th time, his servant told him, "I saw a little cloud about the size of a man's hand rising from the sea." Then Elijah shouted, "Hurry to Ahab and tell him, climb into your chariot and go back home. If you don't hurry, the rain will stop you." As soon as the sky was black with clouds, a heavy wind brought a terrific rainstorm, and Ahab left quickly for Jezreel. Then Yahuah gave special strength to Elijah. He tucked his cloak in his belt and ran ahead of Ahab's chariot all the way to the entrance of Jezreel. And that, my beautiful people, is where we're going to pause on the reading today. I hate splitting up Elijah's story, but we gotta do it. We gotta do it. Where we at? Let's see what time we at. Well, hold on. Make my screen better. We have 49 minutes. Okay, so we'll pick it back up tomorrow, y'all. I know it's getting good. It's getting good. And like I said, if you miss reading about all the part about Jonah and Elijah, y'all got to go back to it. Y'all got to go back to it, listen to it, or read it. It'll fill in a lot of this story because it's leaving out a lot of little pieces here. Okay, so over in the Legends of the Jews on page 483, this is actually starting chapter 11, the return of the captivity, Belshazzar's feast. Okay. When Yahuah resolved to take revenge upon Babylon for all the sufferings it had inflicted on Israel, he chose Darius and Cyrus as the agents of vengeance. Cyrus, the king of Persia, and his father-in-law Darius, the king of Media, together went up against Belshazzar, the ruler of the Chaldeans. And Media and Persia today, I believe there's Iran, Iraq, that area right over there. So the king of the Medes and the Persians, that's them, right? Okay. The war lasted a considerable time. A fortune favored first one side, then the other, until finally the Chaldeans won a decisive victory. To celebrate the event, Belshazzar arranged a great banquet, which was served from the vessels taken out of the temple at Jerusalem by his father. While the king and his guests were feasting, the angel sent by Yahuah put the many tekel of Parson upon the wall. Aramaic words and Hebrew characters written with red ink. The angel was seen by none but the king. His grandees and the princes of the realm who were present at the orgy perceived nothing. The king himself did not see the form of the angel, only his awesome fingers as they traced the words. Only his awesome fingers as they traced the words were visible to him. The interpretation given to the enigmatical, I think I screwed that word up. The interpretation given to the enigmatical words by Daniel put an end to the merrymaking of the feasters. They scattered in dread and fear, leaving none behind except the king and his attendants. In the same night, the king was murdered by an old servant who knew Daniel from the time of Nebuchadnezzar and doubted not that his sinister prophecy would be fulfilled. When the head of King Belshazzar, with the head of King Belshazzar, he betook himself to Darius and Cyrus and told them how his master had desecrated the sacred vessels, told them of the wonderful writing on the wall and the way it had been interpreted by Daniel. The two kings were moved by his recital to vow solemnly that he would permit the Hebrews to return to Palestine and would grant them the use of the temple vessels. They resumed the war against Babylonia with more energy, and Yahuah vouchsafed them victory. They conquered the whole of Belshazzar's realm and took possession of the city of Babylon, whose inhabitants, young and old, were made to suffer death. The subjugated lands were divided between Cyrus and Darius, the latter receiving Babylon and Media, the former Chaldea, Persia, and Assyria. But this is not the whole story of the fall of Babylon. The wicked king Belshazzar arranged the banquet at which the holy vessels were desecrated in the 5th year of his reign, because he thought it wholly certain then that all danger was past the realization of Jeremiah's prophecy foretelling the return of the Hebrews to Palestine at the end of 70 years of Babylonian rule over them. Nebuchadnezzar had governed 25 years and evil Merodach 23, leaving 5 years in the reign of Belshazzar for the fulfillment of the appointed time. Not enough that the king scoffed at Yahuah by using the temple vessels, he needs must have the pastry for the banquet, which was given on the 2nd day of the Passover festival, made of wheaten flour finer than that used on the day for the Omer in the temple. Punishment followed hard upon the heels of the atrocity. Cyrus and Darius served as doorkeepers of the royal palace on the evening of the banquet. They had received orders from Belshazzar to admit none, though he should say he was king himself. Belshazzar was forced to leave his apartments for a short time, and he went out unnoticed by the two doorkeepers. On his return, he asked to be admitted. They failed him dead, even while he was asseverating that he I'm sorry, even while he was asseverating that he was the king. Daniel under the Persian kings. Daniel left Belshazzar and fled to Shushtar, where he was kindly received by Cyrus, who promised him to have the temple vessels taken back to Jerusalem, provided Daniel would pray to Yahuah to grant him success in his war with the king of Mosul. Yahuah gave Daniel's prayer a favorable hearing, and Cyrus was true to his promise. Daniel now received the divine charge to urge Cyrus to rebuild the temple. To this end, he was introduced. He was. I'm sorry. To this end, he was to introduce Ezra and Zerubbabel to the king. Ezra then went from place to place and called upon the people to return to Palestine. Sad to say, only a tribe and a half obeyed his summons. Indeed,
Mom,
yes.
will you and me go to work?
Can you and me go to work?
No. You and me go to work.
You and me go to work. Okay, wait too. Indeed, the majority of the people were so wroth against Ezra that they sought to slay him. He escaped the peril to his life only by a divine miracle. Daniel, too, was exposed to much suffering at this time. King Cyrus cast him into the den of lions because he refused to bow down before the idol of the king. For 7 days, Daniel lay among wild beasts, and not a hair of his head was touched. When the king, at the end of the week, found Daniel alive, he could not but acknowledge the sovereign grandeur of Yahuah. Cyrus released Daniel and instead had his calumniators thrown to the lions. In an instant, they were rent into pieces. And so do y'all remember when we, hold on, let me make sure I didn't, hold on. Okay, so when earlier, I want to make sure we did already read it earlier before I tell you. Or am I thinking ahead? Okay, I think we read it already. It's about while he was in the lion's den, right? Habakkuk. Yahuah actually brought Habakkuk. Y'all remember when I read that? I think we read it already because I don't see it back here. While Daniel was in the lion's den, Yahuah actually sent the prophet Habakkuk. There's a book in the Bible called Habakkuk. He sent him to Daniel while he was in the lion's den. He actually brought Daniel food, right? And the spirit of Yah actually transported Habakkuk to where Daniel was. Habakkuk was in another city, and he heard you did. Okay, Levine remembers. Okay, so Habakkuk was in another city, minding his own business, doing what he do. When the spirit of Yah spoke to him and told him, he said, "Look, I need you to go take some food to Daniel." And he said, "Daniel, who?" And he explained to him who he was. He said, "Okay, well, where is Daniel at?" He said, "He's over here in the lion's den." He said, "Oh, how over there?" "No problems, my G. Let's go." And he transported him there in a moment, right? It said the spirit of Yahuah grabbed Habakkuk by his hair and transported him right to the spot where Daniel was in the lion's den, right? Hold on. I keep bringing up all these references. I'm gonna have to put it back in here just in case. Let's see. Lion's den. Habakkuk. I put this in here. Like if y'all missed it, I'm gonna go. It's gonna take me a while to put these up here, y'all, because I gotta go back and find it. I dated it, so I just need to look through here and find out the day that I read it and put it in there. So that way I'll put the video in there so you can click on the video, and then if you want to read it, I'll find the page number in here and you can kind of go to it, and I'll put the link for the online version. So if you don't have the book, you can just kind of go to it and read it and see it yourself, right? So I'll put all that in there. Okay, so I gotta do Jonah. I need to do Elijah, hold on, the lion's den, Habakkuk. Okay. Give me a little while, y'all, because I got some other work and stuff I got to get done. But I try and get this in here as soon as possible. Just keep checking back. Okay. But he transported him there. He gave him the food, and all this time, the lions, they were like puppies in there with Daniel, right? Because Yahuah had closed their mouths and everything, so they didn't bother him. He was actually leaning back. He slept on one of them like they was a pillow, right? That's what it says. So, and after Habakkuk had given him the food, he transported him right back to where he was at. Okay. So just in case you didn't hear that part, you weren't here for that. Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go back up a little bit. For 7 days, Daniel lay among the wild beasts, and not a hair of his head was touched. When the king, at the end of the week, found Daniel alive, he could not but acknowledge the sovereign grandeur of Yahuah. Cyrus released Daniel and instead had his calumniators thrown to the lions. In an instant, they were rent into pieces. In general, Cyrus fell far short of coming up to the expectations set in him for piety and justice. Though he granted permission to the Hebrews to rebuild the temple, they were to use no material wood, so that it might easily be destroyed if the Hebrews should take it into their head to rebel against him. Even in points of morals, the Persian king was not above reproach. Another time, Cyrus pressingly urged Daniel to pay homage to the idol Baal. As proof of the divinity of the idol, the king advanced the fact that it ate the dishes set before it, a report spread by the priest of Baal who entered the temple of the idol at night through subterranean passages, themselves ate up the dishes and then attributed their disappearance to the appetite of the gods. So remember when I was talking about when we get to Daniel, the last time we read through Daniel, we read through the books of the Apocrypha, and we read through Susanna and Bel and the Dragon. Remember I was telling you about my shenanigans, how long it took for me to actually read that because I thought it was going to be like speaking spells into myself. The name of it is the Gatekeeper, y'all. Bel and the Dragon is actually talking about this particular god right here, right? Remember, the king was being fooled. He said, listen, I got a god that eats all the dishes that's set before him. Y'all ever walk into like Chinese restaurants and they got Buddhas with plates of food and stuff sitting in front of them? They're literally offering food to their gods, right? And so he said, look, I got a God that eats the food that is set before him. He said, but Daniel was too wise for that, right? And he knew, and they tell you right here, look. Another time, Cyrus pressingly urged Daniel to pay homage to the idol Baal. As proof of the divinity of the idol, the king advanced the fact that it ate the dishes set before it, a report spread by the priests of Baal, who themselves entered the temple of the idol at night through subterranean passages. They themselves ate up the dishes and then attributed their disappearance to the appetite of the god, right? So there was a trap door under this table where they had set the god at, and at night, when they go to lock the temple up, and you can tell the seal hasn't been broken, ain't nobody been in here. This god ate this up. No, king. Look, let me show you. Let's do this. Come on. I'm gonna show you how to prove this. Give me some ashes. Get a bunch of ashes, and we're gonna strew them all on the floor, right? The king watched Daniel do this. They put ashes all in the temple, all around. You see this? Okay, the ashes are undisturbed. See how they fell? Okay, let's go ahead out. We're going to close this up. Seal it, king, with your ring. Seal it with your ring. Place a guard here tonight. And we're going to come back, and you're going to have this guard removed. You're going to check this seal yourself, and then you yourself will break the seal, and we're going to open it, right? And he said, okay, Daniel, I'm going to show you. Yes, let's do this. Come on. So they did that. They came back. The seal was unbroken. He got there in the morning. He opened it up, and voila, the food on the plate was gone. See, Daniel, I told you, pay homage to my God. Pay homage to the dragon, king. Okay, first, before we do that, I need you to direct your eyes to the floor. Exhibit 1. King looks at the floor. He sees footprints all throughout these ashes. Footprints of men, footprints of women, and footprints of children. What? Oh, king, there's an opening under this table that your God is sitting on. And your servants come in here at night with their families and they eat up this food that they set in here. Right. We'll get to that. We'll read it again when we get there. Okay. Another time, Cyrus pressingly urged Daniel to pay homage to the idol Baal. As proof of the divinity of the idol, the king advanced the fact that it ate the dishes set before it. A report spread by the priests of Baal who entered the temple of the idol at night through subterranean passages. They themselves ate up the dishes, then attributed their disappearance to the appetite of the god. But Daniel was too shrewd to be misled by a fabricated story. And that's how we should be. We should be too shrewd to be led astray by some of these fabricated stories they teach us. Like some of them don't make good common sense if we thinking and we got it right and we know we got it, right? But Daniel was too shrewd to be led by a fabricated story. He had the ashes strewn upon the floor of the temple and the footprints visible the next morning convinced the king of the deceit practiced by the priests. Pleasant relations did not continue to subsist forever between Cyrus and Darius. A war broke out between them in which Cyrus lost life and lands. Fearing Darius, Daniel fled to Persia. But an angel of Yahuah appeared to him with the message, "Fear not the king, not unto him will I surrender thee." Shortly afterward, he received a letter from Darius reading as follows: "Come to me, Daniel, fear not, for I shall be even kinder to thee than Cyrus was." Accordingly, Daniel returned to Shushtar and was received with great considerations by Darius. On the day the king chanced to remember the sacred garments brought by Nebuchadnezzar out of the temple at Jerusalem to Babylon, they had vanished, and no trace of them could be discovered. The king suspected. Sorry, y'all. Okay. The king suspected Daniel of having had something to do with their disappearance. It booted little that he protested his innocence. He was cast into prison. Yahuah sent an angel who was blind to Darius, telling him at the same time that he was deprived of the light of his eyes because he was keeping the pious Daniel endurance, and sight would be restored to him only if Daniel interceded for him. The king at once released Daniel, and the two together journeyed to Jerusalem to pray on the holy place for the restoration of the king. That sounds kind of familiar, don't it? I'm going to read it again. Let's see if y'all catch it. Yahuah sent an angel who was to blind Darius, telling him at the same time that he was deprived of the light of his eyes because he was keeping the pious Daniel endurance, and sight would be restored to him only if Daniel interceded for him. The king at once released Daniel, and the two journeyed together to Jerusalem to pray on the holy place for the restoration of the king. If you got it, just hold it tight. Just hold it. Just hold it. Think about it. We'll come back to it in a while. Not today, but I'll bring it back up. An angel appeared to Daniel and announced to him that his prayer had been heard. The king had but to wash his eyes, and vision would return to them. So it happened. Darius gave thanks to Yahuah, and in his gratitude assigned the tithe of his grain to the priests and the Levites. Besides, he testified his appreciation to Daniel by loading him down with gifts, and both returned to Shushtar. The recovery of the king convinced many of his subjects of the omnipotence of Yahuah, and they converted to Hebrew. Following the advice of Daniel, Darius appointed a triumvirate. Okay, I don't know what that is. I'm gonna have to look that up. Darius appointed a triumvirate to take charge of the administration of his realm, and Daniel was made the chief of the council of three. His high dignity was second to none, but the king himself exposed him to envy and hostility on all sides. So clearly it was a public office that he appointed him to. Okay. His enemies plotted his ruin. With cunning, they induced the king to sign an order attaching the penalty of death to prayers addressed to any god or any man other than Darius. Though the order did not require Daniel to commit a sin, he preferred to give his life for the honor of the one God rather than omit his devotions to him. When his jealous enemy surprised him during his prayers, He did not interrupt himself. He was dragged before the king, who refused to give credence to the charge against Daniel. Meanwhile, the hour after afternoon prayer arrived, and in the presence of the king and his princes, Daniel began to perform his devotions. This naturally rendered unavailing all efforts made by the king to save his friend from death. Daniel said, I don't care where I'm at. The hour of prayer has arrived. And you know something, you'll see this in Muslims do this, right? Wherever they at. Now there are some things that are let me say this the right way. Okay, so we'll see in each religion that there is something that's, don't try and twist my words, y'all, because I know some people be doing this and trying to pull stuff out of context. Listen to what I'm saying. If you do it, you better play my whole video. Listen, here's what I'm saying. There are some things good that people do. There are some disciplines that are found in, I ain't gonna say every, but in a lot of religions that are good, right? Like discipline of prayer, right? And that's something that I see in the Muslim faith that they are disciplined at. Maybe not all of them, but from what I've seen, that's something good that they may not be praying to y'all. Some of them are, but some of them are not. Like this, the when you hear it now or whatever, they got them off into somewhere else. But there are some people who and I don't like to name the Muslims, but the world kind of names the Muslims. They kind of lump them all together, and they shouldn't be, right? And there are cousins, which they know that Yahuah is the only God, right? They call, let me not even get into that, because I know somebody gonna try and chop and screw all what I'm about to say. But anyway, get back to my point. There are some disciplines, like the prayer discipline. No matter where they at, when the hour of prayer comes, they stop wherever they at. Matter of fact, they carry their prayer rugs with them, just in case the floor is dirty. We're gonna lay that down. We're gonna get down and we're gonna pray towards the temple in the east, right, where Yahuah is. We're gonna take it and we're gonna pray, right? And you can find some disciplines, and I ain't gonna say, like I said, all the religions. In a lot of religions, they have certain disciplines that are just good disciplines for life, right? That you can take and you can apply to your life, right? That's all I'm saying. I ain't saying take the religion and mix it up into there. I'm just saying the discipline that they have for prayer. Imagine if Yahuah's own people took that same discipline and the discipline and the fortification and the determination that they have to pray at their set prayer times. They don't care what's going on. They're going to stop and they're going to pray. And this is what Daniel did, right? Right in front of them. Listen. Meanwhile, the hour for the afternoon prayer arrived, and in the presence of the king and his princes, Daniel began to perform his devotions. This naturally rendered unavailing all efforts made by the king to save his friend from death.
Mommy,
yeah.
You want to go to the warehouse with Dad?
You want to go to the warehouse with Dad?
No, you and me and Dad.
Okay, we'll go to the warehouse. Okay. Daniel was cast into a pit full of lions. The entrance to the pit was closed up with a rock, which had all of its own accord rolled from Palestine to protect him against any harm contemplated by his enemies. The ferocious beasts welcomed the pious Daniel like dogs, fawning upon their master on his return from home, licking his hands, and oh, here we go. Look, I looked down here. I overlooked it. Let's see, he's in there in the lion's den, and the lions acting like dogs,
Mom,
right?
Come on.
I'm almost done, Tootie. Dad not ready to leave yet.
Come in.
Not yet. We ain't got a truck yet. Hold on. Let me hurry up. My boss, my little lady boss is calling me. Hold on, we almost done. We almost done. Okay, let me go back. Okay, so here it is. Look. Okay. Hold on, let me go back up here. Daniel was cast into a pit full of lions. The entrance to the pit was closed up with a rock, which had all of its own accord rolled from Palestine to protect him against any harm contemplated by his enemies. The ferocious beasts, or the lions, welcomed the pious Daniel like dogs, fawning upon their master on his return from home, licking his hands and wagging their tails. And I'm gonna keep reading, but let me just point out something. Remember how I told you, at the beginning when we started this book, it talks about the Book of Raziel, right? And this was the book that Yah had given to man, right? It's an angel, right? It's the wisdom of this angel that they taught, and it was passed down through the family of Jacob. Before he came and after he came, this is where King Solomon learned all his wisdom. The spirit of Yahuah came upon him and revealed these things to him, right? Listen, but I have I ain't gonna say it's the copy of the book, but there's some things in there that I can't quite understand yet, but I notice a pattern in everything that it does, right? And it lines up with what we see. Like if we're gonna walk with Yah, we have to be sure that our lives, we make sure that we keep our lives pure and holy. Why? Why? Because there's power in living a pure and holy, righteous life, right? Not that you're perfect, but you don't make a constant habit of sin. Because what's going to happen is, you're going to be able to cry out to Yah, and based on how you have kept this temple from being defiled will determine the amount of power that flows through you, right? So you can, in all honesty and cleanliness and piousness, whatever you want to call it, you can cry out and see Yah come to your rescue, right? Daniel was truly pious, which is why that thing that was set up to harm him did not hurt him. And those ferocious lions were now turned into puppies before his sight, because even nature realizes that this is a child of the Most High that's here, right? And we bow before him, right? Like we don't go seeking that, but nature even recognizes the pious, right? Nature will come to your aid when you keep your life holy and pure, right? I cannot stress that enough, people. Not that you're perfect, strive. If you got some qualms or whatever hang-ups about yourself, pray. Ask who will help you clean it up, right? Because there may come a time where anything could happen. You're just like saved from being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or you're immediately taken out of a situation that you hear, oh my gosh, that just went bad. I was just there. Like things like this, and you begin to recognize those things and see it around you. I cannot stress that enough. That has happened so many times. Let's be the most holy, right? Look, okay, let me finish reading this. The ferocious beasts welcomed the pious Daniel like dogs, fawning upon their master on his return from home, licking his hands and wagging their tails. While this was passing in Babylon, an angel appeared to the prophet Habakkuk in Judea. He ordered the prophet to bring Daniel the food he was about to carry to his laborers in the field. Astonished, Habakkuk asked the angel how he could carry it so great a distance, whereupon he was seized by his hair and in a moment sat down before Daniel. They dined together, and then the angel transported Habakkuk back to his palace and back to his place in Palestine. Early in the morning, Darius went to the pit of the lions to discover the fate of Daniel. The king called his name, but he received no answer because Daniel was reciting the Shema at that moment, after having spent the night in giving praise and adoration to Yahuah. Seeing that he was still alive, the king summoned the enemies of Daniel to the pit. It was their opinion that the lions had not been hungry, and therefore Daniel was still unhurt. The king commanded them to put the beast in the king commanded them to put the beast to the test with their own persons. Oh, they weren't hungry? Okay, let's test this. You go ahead and get into that pit. Let's see if they eat you, right? Because they know, like, wicked kings know the pious, Yahuah keeps the pious. Let's test this principle. You said it was because of this. Let's see you test this with your own body. Let's see. Who was wrong? Daniel is pious. You are not, right? Look. The king, hold on, look. Let me go back. The king called his name, but he received no answer because Daniel was reciting the Shema at that moment. What we do before we start, let's do the Shema, right? Because Daniel was reciting the Shema at that moment. After having spent the night and giving praise. Oh, you really did say, come on, let's go to the warehouse. I'm sorry, but look, I'm on.
Steel case truck.
Oh, they there now? Yeah. Oh.
How much longer you got?
Oh, Like 5 minutes, babe. Hold on. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. Ooh, I'm sorry. I be talking too much. Okay. The king called his name, but he received no answer. I'm sorry, babe. The king called his name, but he received no answer because Daniel was reciting the Shema at that moment. After having spent the night in giving praise and adoration to Yahuah, seeing that he was still alive, the king summoned the enemies of Daniel to the pit. It was their opinion that the lions had not been hungry, and therefore Daniel was still unhurt. The king commanded them to put the beasts to the test with their own persons. The result was that the 122 enemies of Daniel, together with their wives and children, numbering 244 persons, were torn in shreds by 1,464 lions. This was truly a den. It wasn't like you seeing these little sweet Bible stories. It's about 7 lions in that pit. They were torn to shreds by 1,464 lions. The miraculous escape of Daniel brought him more distinguished consideration and great honors than before. The king published the wonders done by Yahuah in all parts of his land and called upon the people to betake themselves to Jerusalem and help in the erection of the temple. Daniel entreated the king to relieve him of the duties of his position, for the performance of which he no longer felt himself fit on the account of his advanced age. The king consented on condition that Daniel designate a successor worthy of him. His choice fell upon Zerubbabel, loaded with rich presents, and amid public demonstrations designed to honor him. Daniel retired from public life. He settled in the city of Shushan, where he abode until his end. Though he was no prophet, Yahuah vouchsafed to him a knowledge of the end time. Hold on, look. Yahuah vouchsafed to him a knowledge of the end of time, not granted his friends, the prophets Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi, but even he, in the fullness of his years, lost all memory of the revelation with which he had been favored, right? Okay, my beautiful people, that is our reading for today. So what Yahuah revealed to Daniel, that he said, sealed it up until the end time. I'll let you think about this and you can ponder over it. He said, but seal this up to the end time. He said, I'm going to reveal it to them when we get to that generation, which is our generation today. Yeah. Okay, let me stop. My husband is waiting for me. Okay, y'all. So that was 1 Kings 16, 17, and 18. We read Legends of the Jews, page 43 to page 43. It is Friday, April the 16th, 2021, day 129 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets of the 3-year consecutive day count. Day 798. Remember, that is without the feast days and the Sabbath feast days added to the count. Why? Because we rest on those days. All right, y'all, let's go ahead and do the blessing. Guys, I don't see no questions. I kind of glanced. Okay. Yes, baby girl. What, Pootie?
Look.
What?
Look.
What, Pootie?
Look. I already.
You already got your, I see, sis. You got your purse. You got your baby doll. We're ready to go. Okay, y'all, remember the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto Aaron and unto his son, saying, on this wise, ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, may Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all. Gotta go. I will see y'all bright and early in the morning. It's Saturday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
I like this. And that one.
See y'all.
That one.
I got it, Pootie.
Now you're already.